After Mr. LeVay had sold the car to Arnie, the two friends decide to take the car to Darnell's garage because Arnie's parents didn't want the car in their house since they considered that Arnie was too young to have a car. On the way to the garage, one of Christine's tires was punctured, so Arnie and Dennis had to get off to repair the car. Suddenly, an angry lady comes out and tells the young people that they cannot leave that junk there. Since later her husband Ralph arrives and he will get angry. Time after, the husband of the lady arrives and gets angry to see that car parked in front of his house. After a few moments of discussion, the situation becomes even stronger, at which point Dennis arrives and calms the situation and tells him that gives a little time to take the car. The two friends were able to fix the car and drove to the junkyard where they were going to leave the car. Arnie and Dennis leave the car in Darnell's garage and go home. On the way home, his friend goes in completely silence when suddenly starts crying. His friend thought it was a reaction for how bad it was happening, but it was not like that. It was something else. He was hungry. What his friend did was hurt him, and he began to think that for moments like this, he wouldn't like to be Ernest's friend, but maybe from now on his friend will be Christine. They arrived at Ernest's house, where his parents were there waiting for him, Michael and Regina. That night, Dennis had a bad dream. The light went off in an inexplicable way. He was in the garage all the way, and there was Christine with a sign of wrath. The windshield wiper suddenly started, and a voice is heard. Come on, big boy. We're going for a walk. We're going on a cruise. Christine starts to accelerate and throw herself for what like an enraged dog. Her feet were nailed to the ground. He couldn't move. In the end, Christine is thrown. The last thing he sees is a huge mouthful of teeth. Then he shouts so loud that his parents arrived is just a nightmare, nothing more. That week, that week, Dennis went to pick up his friend who had bruises all over his body. Ernest doesn't say anything, only until they are in a pizzeria and Arnie asks Dennis if he knew Barry Reperton. Because with him, he was the one who had the fight, since Barry broke one of Christine's headlights. That day, Dennis read the newspaper intuitively and found an ad that said a soldier had died. Immediately, he called Arnie. Dennis told him everything, but he took it as a joke. Arnie tells his boss that he has to go to a funeral and his boss gives permission to leave. Minutes later, Dennis tells the boss that he has to go because his friend is in trouble. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the two friends meet and go to the cemetery. Being there, they see an character equal to Mr. LeVay. This man was his brother, who tells Arnie that he had to sell the car if he wanted to be happy. Dennis, hearing the words of George LeVay, feels uneasy and asks him why his words. Then LeVay tells him that if he wants to know more, He had to get where he was staying, the Rainbow Motel. There, he told him about the life of his brother Roland Levey and about the tragedy of his daughter who was drowned by a piece of meat, and his wife commits suicide, all related to Christine. That night, Denise comes home and calls his friend, who was happy because Ripperton had decided to leave the garage. This meant to This meant he could go back and have his Christine in the same place. Hearing this word, Denise thought several times to tell him about the accident related to that car. One day, in a football game, Dennis had difficulty. He was run over and beaten, but was surprised there was Christine, and with her his friend, who he spoke to him, but he didn't understand anything of what he was saying. The next day, Ernie met a very beautiful girl named Lady Cabot. He had moved from a city in Massachusetts to Libertyville 3 weeks ago. When Ripperton suddenly arrived with a knife, threatening Ernie. This time Dennis tried to defend him. For the same moment Mr. Casey arrives and takes him to the office so that the two friends remained calm.